Alright, all you horror maniacs, I'm back with a little something different for you guys. If you recently watched our Nightmare on Elm Street 4 The Dream Master review, I told a little nightmare story about when I actually created something from that movie. I was inspired to create something from that movie, and so if you haven't watched that review yet, you can go back and watch it, please. But if you haven't watched it, I'll sum it up real quick. So after this friend of mine and I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 4, we came out of the theater and I was really pumped up for Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan then. I mean, I was like full-on Freddy Krueger fan by that point. And there was a lot of Freddy merchandise out there. There were different Freddy stuff, dolls and spitballs and soundtracks and games and all kinds of Freddy stuff out there. But I didn't actually see a whole lot of Freddy gloves or Freddy sweaters or hats or anything like that. If you wanted anything like that, it usually was a movie prop replica, and it was really expensive. And at the time, I wasn't old enough to have a job and be able to pay for anything like that on my own. So we came out of the theater, my friend and I said, you know, I don't really, even if I bought one of these Freddy gloves that are supposedly out there, they're plastic and they're rubber, or they're, you know, they don't look like Freddy's glove, really. Yeah, I said, I'd rather just make one. He goes, you know what? That's a good idea. I said, yeah, I think we could do it. I mean, if Freddy could do it, I'm sure we could do it. But I mean, I don't think I'd be able to make one like he did. You know, I don't have any access to to piping and knives, and be able to sharpen knives and all the sharpening tools that he had, and the blow torches and all that kind of, I don't have any of that, you know. I don't have any kind of tools like that. And he says, yeah, neither do I, but he goes, I do have some tools, and I think we could probably use some kind of different metal to make it at least look like, you know, his glove. And I said, yeah, that's an idea. So we started looking around at different things, and so we started looking around his garage and looking through some of his dad's old stuff and just junk sitting on a shelf, and there was a tin cookie can sitting there. And it was like Christmas cookies or whatever that they had, you know, they had already long eaten the cookies, and it was just, he was just storing like old bolts and what little knickknacks and shit in it. Just garbage, really. So he goes, well, how about this, you know? And I'm like, a cookie can? You think we can make it out of a cookie can? He goes, well, look at the sides of the can, which were like that. It was like that thick or so. About that deep the can was. He goes, we cut off the bottom, and he goes, the lid obviously comes off, so we cut off the bottom, and we'll cut pieces from this, and then we'll shape it around our fingers and stuff. I was like, okay. And as soon as he started to say this, I started to think of how could we actually put this together. And that was a pretty good idea, like to shape the cookie can around our fingers, like in pieces. So I said, well, I want to do it and make it look at least similar to Freddy. Now, with doing that, I went and collected as much Freddy stuff from Fangoria magazines, from newspaper clippings, from other magazine clippings, and we watched the first 3 films on VHS at that time. So we got what we could out of that, because it's not like it is with Blu-ray. Watching these things on Blu-ray, you can pause it and it looks clear. The pictures look so clear. Back then it was VHS and everything was kind of dark and grainy and things. But anyway, looking at all the stuff that we could possibly find of Freddy's glove, And then we took the tin cans and started cutting up pieces out of them. So we started cutting up the pieces around the sides to put around our fingers. Then we used the bottom of the can to actually make a back plate to it. Because we were looking at all these pictures and everything, and we had all this down, and we were like, okay, well, what are we going to use for the rivets that are there? And then we were just looking around, and I said, well, they obviously look like little rivets right where all the finger joints are. And we need to find something that looks like that and doesn't, necessarily go all the way through your finger. Can't use an actual rivet in there, it's too big. So we're looking around all over the place, and I finally came up with something, and I was like, hey, check this out. So I grabbed some paper fasteners, and I said, the top of it looks like Freddy's rivets in his glove. He was like, yeah, it does. So we got all these, we got the rivets, we got all these pieces that we're cutting and everything, and we're shaping them and everything just like Freddy's glove. And then we came to the hardest part of it, which was the blades. What kind of blades are we going to use? We wanted to get them as close as we could to, obviously, Freddy Krueger's blades. So I was like, well, what kind of blades? We need something that's thin and can be sharp, or at least pointy. We actually didn't want to make them sharp so that we wouldn't get in trouble, because we were afraid of, we actually sharpened these things. We end up cutting ourselves or cutting somebody else by accident. We wouldn't go out and kill anybody, but, we didn't want to get harassed for having real blades on our Freddy gloves. Again, I'm looking through, we're trying to come up with some blades, and I found an actual fish scaling knife, or filleting knife, and it actually had the shape. If you turned it around backwards, it actually had the shape of one of Freddy's blades. But the top of the blade was actually serrated. It had the like saw looking blade across the top of it, and I said, well, we'd have to shave that off, but that's the perfect blade for these. But how do we get it on our glove? How do we do that without welding stuff? We don't have any welding equipment, so we were trying to figure out some other way to do this. I'm looking through my garage, and I come across some hacksaw blades, and these blades were made to, of course, cut through metal. And they're hacksaw blades that were about 12 inches. So they're about 12 inches long, and I'm like, if we cut these in half, they're 6 inches. So when you put them on the end of the blade, on the end of the glove, it should look like, we have to shave them still. We still have to find somebody to actually shave the blades down and shave their shredded part, the actual saw part of it off. So, because you don't want to be Freddy and trying to saw through things, you want to be able to slice. So we're going to make it look like it could actually slice. So I'm looking at these hacksaw blades, I'm like, we'd have to cut them in half and then stick them on the glove somehow. And we finally figured it out, and we used the hacksaw blades. Then we went to a friend of ours who actually did, and I didn't know this until after we got a hold of him, way after he actually did this for us. I was showing him the glove, and he goes, wow, that's great, that's awesome, yeah. He goes, I could shave those down for you. I was like, you could shave the blades, the hacksaw blades down? And he goes, yeah, I could easily do that. My dad has a metal grinder, so I'll just grind off the saw part of it, and I'll grind the metal so that it'll actually look like blades instead, like Freddy's blades, rather than hacksaw blades. I was like, okay. So I let him, of course, borrow the gloves so that he could do this, and then when he came back to me and gave it back to me, it was perfect. It came out perfect. Now, of course, I've already shown the glove in our review of Nightmare on Elm Street 4. But I'm going to show it to you again here so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Everything I've been talking about here. So let me put it on here. So here it is. My actual Freddy Krueger glove from 1988. This is the glove I built from a Dax cookie can. That's the name of the company. And we got it from the cookie can. We actually had to go out and buy another cookie can because the cookie can we had wasn't enough. We had to go buy more. So we went to a Dollar General or something and found, and luckily it was getting close to Christmas. So they had all these Christmas cookies there. So we found this Dax cookie can to actually make the finger part here and the back. And there's the paper fasteners right there for all the joints. And they're, if you can see it in there, they're in between here as well. You can see that. Now, there is one thing that's different on this glove, that when I originally put this glove together, because if you notice one of these fingers is like really small, like this glove is sticking way out from that finger. Okay, the reason that is because this is not the original glove I had for my original Freddy glove from 1988. The same friend who did all this, shaped the hacksaw blades and took off the serrated edge, gave me this glove, this welding glove. Because that's what Freddy's glove is. It's a great big welding glove. And he was like, I got one of those gloves, one of Freddy's gloves. And I'm like, yeah, I made one. And he says, no, I mean the glove, the actual glove. I have one. If you want it, I'll give it to you. I was like, oh, okay. So he gave me the glove. What I originally used as the glove was a gardening glove. So that's why some of the, these are small like that. So this glove actually sticks out of there longer than that because it was originally a gardening glove. So what we did to actually put the blades on, we took the hacksaw blade, and of course at each end of the hacksaw blade there's a hole. So we took that part, put it inside here, and put the paper fastener through there and hammered it down so that it was flat and would hold the blade in there. Then we bent the metal around so that it would actually come around the blade itself, and then we soldered it to kind of hold it in place. The blades do kind of wobble a little bit, but you got to remember this is from 1988 now. But unfortunately on my finger here, the reason that's so loose is because the solder has broken off. So that's why that's flopping around like that. But other than that, I mean, we're talking 1988, so that's literally like 30 years ago. So I've had this thing for 30 years. And then, of course, when my friend gave me the welding glove, I cut the inside just like Freddy's glove. Oh, and also, there's another thing. In Freddy's glove, he's got a band around here, around the tips of his fingers, but he also has a band that goes around the bottom here on this finger back plate here, this part. There's a band that goes around there and goes around the glove, just like those there. But because I was using a gardening glove, they wouldn't fit. Those smaller bands wouldn't around the second part of the glove here. They wouldn't fit around it because it was such a small glove, and this is obviously a much larger glove. And now that I put the larger glove on it, it still doesn't really fit because it's shaped for that gardening glove. But I never really needed it, and actually it bends quite well without it. So that's what we did. That's how I made my Freddy glove from a tin can and hacksaw blades and paper fasteners. You know, finding a Freddy glove is a lot easier now than it's ever been. But back then, it was hard to find one, and it was hard to find a real one. So I made it as real as I could, and I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it because I've shown it off. I've taken places. I've dressed up as Freddy. In our first review of Nightmare on Elm Street, you might have saw me wearing my Freddy sweater, and I had my hat and the whole thing, right? Yeah, I even had a Freddy mask that was, they had these makeup kits where you took the pieces of Freddy's mask and you actually used spirit gum and stuck it to your face so you could actually talk. You know, you could actually move around and talk and, you know, and make all the expressions. And I had that for a long time too. Before, of course, it was like a latex. It was like a, or rather a foam that just finally it just gave out after years and years of use. It just, you know, and sweating in it, it just gave out. So I've never been able to get that mask back again. So now I got one of the cheesy, cheap, deluxe Freddy Krueger masks. You know, the ones that are like $40. So I got one of those now. But I hope to try to find one of those silicone masks that they have out now and actually use one of those eventually, because I really would like to make my Freddy costume whole again and make, you know, and have it all together with my glove. And obviously I got to find some solder for this. So, but yeah, that's how I created my Freddy glove. It's from a tin can and paper fasteners and hacksaw blades and some love from a couple of friends that also loved Freddy Krueger and wanted to make my Freddy glove look so real. Oh, and obviously the tin can, you know, it's tin. On one side, if you were to actually, I don't know if you could actually see it in here. If you actually can see, there it is. You can look right inside there. You can see the old tin can in there, the cookie can in there. And obviously on this side it was silver. So I had to paint it. So we got the copper spray paint. And that's how that came out. So I used copper spray paint, and then I just kind of took some silver paint, painted some actual silver blade, you know, metal silver paint, and painted the blades. And then I threw a little bit on the back end of it here just to make it kind of look like Nightmare 4. You know, kind of splashed it on the back of it a little bit, and then just over time and over age, it just eventually kind of turned out more and more like Freddy's glove, all kind of used and banged up, and the more I used it, the more it got better. So there it is. There's my story. You know, I'm pretty proud of it. I really am. You know, it was something that I didn't know I could actually, you know, I felt like, well, we could make this, but I didn't know I would actually be able to do it. So I hope you enjoyed my little story about how I made my Freddy glove. And if you did, please give us a subscribe. You know, subscribe to us down there. Hit that subscribe button for me. And also give us a like over here. And you hit the bell if you want us to notify you whenever there's a new video up. And you can leave comments down below and leave me some feedback about my Freddy glove. If you like it, if you think it's cool, I'd really like to hear from you. So leave me some comments, subscribe to us, and we'll be back with a lot more Nightmare on Elm Street stuff for you, because this is Horror Month 2018, and we're continuing on with a whole lot more. We still got a whole lot more stuff to bring you for this month. So until next time, your shift is over.